What's up, Title Tribe? How are we doing today? Mike and I are back with another Dynasty rookie mock draft. We've got 10 teams in this one as people are busy on another Saturday afternoon. Hopefully, we'll get back to doing these on weeknights so more people can join, I guess. But until then, we'll just rock with 10 teams. And
Yeah, it's WrestleMania Saturday, so a lot of people are, getting ready, gearing up. So I can't blame anybody for getting ready for that. I'm going to hit the start button here.
All right.
And of course, I have the 101, which is not, I got to turn this damn volume off. Not something I really enjoy, but, in a 101, I got to take, in a super flex, I got to take the quarterback. He's just too damn good to kind of pass up, to be honest with you.
Yep. I agree. It's interesting. Marv's ADP is now
Higher.
yeah.
Do you think anything has to do with the name?
I don't. Maybe as we see Malik.
Neighbors.
The 102. That's he's my wide receiver one, so I'm with it. But that you're definitely not going to see that too often.
I mean, I think we're going to start seeing it more. To be honest, I think that there is starting to be a switch, not a switch, but I guess a change in the tide of a lot more people are starting to have Neighbors as their wide receiver one. I'm not there. He's actually my wide receiver 3. But again, with how good this class is, you can't really go wrong with any of the top 3 guys.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have tiers in your rankings?
Yeah, so it's Marv 1 for me, and then he's kind of a tier of his own, and then Rome and Neighbors are my second tier, and those guys are at the same spot for me.
Okay, yeah. I just have it as 1 tier with the 3 of them. I actually, right now in my overall rankings, I have Caleb and the 3 receivers as just tier 1.
Mm-hmm.
Bowers and the 2 other quarterbacks as the next tier.
Yeah, so all 3 of the wide receivers just went back to back to back now that we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Which is not surprising, but surprising at the same time. I think the earliest I've seen Rome go since we've been doing this.
Yeah, definitely.
I think he's gone from anywhere the 1.5 to the 1.8, which it's one spot, which is not crazy, but it's interesting to see.
And that's definitely the earliest we've seen Brian Thomas.
Yeah. Jaden Daniels has fallen, surprisingly.
Yeah. I think maybe people are probably starting to remember how low the hit rate of quarterbacks are and just kind of scared and want to take what they perceive as the more sure thing with these receivers, which I get that too if that's what's happening as Daniels goes at the 107.
And I also wonder is if it's people are because you and I were talking about it off air, I believe it was. Is it Daniels that made Neighbors and Thomas look good, or was it Thomas and Neighbors that made Daniels look good, or was it a combination of all 3? Yeah. I guess it really just depends on how you look at it.
Yeah, definitely. That's always going to be a question with those like super talented teams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, JJ goes at the 109. I'm gonna do something I don't normally do in these drafts. Just take running backs.
Yeah, I think the closer we get, I do think that that's probably going to be what happens. So now this is going to be the tough part for me. My wide receiver 4 and 5, who I have in the same tier, Worthy and Franklin, are both still on the board. And it's really going to come down to landing spot for me when it comes to those 2. I'll go with my one who's higher currently in Troy Franklin, but I could absolutely see myself going the other way because I do think Worthy's probably going to get better draft capital, especially at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really going to just depend on what happens there.
So do you care more about landing spot, like the team that they go to and the situation, or draft capital?
So technically, I have a tendency to prefer talent over landing spot and draft capital.
Well, sure, but
Um, but
of the
with those two, so say for instance, if Worthy goes to Buffalo at the second round, and Franklin goes for whatever reason in the third round to, I don't know, Kansas City, I'd still probably have them extremely close. And I don't even know what I would do there because, again, that's a 1 round difference, but those are both premium landing spots. And I have both of those guys so close together, it would be really hard for me to choose between the two. I'd probably still go Worthy because of the draft capital.
right.
And, the NFL's telling you what they think of those two players. But sometimes the NFL is wrong.
Yep. I think for me, the draft capital thing is more of, I don't really like, obviously the NFL is, they put so much money into scouting and all that, and they know what they're doing to a certain extent, but I don't really care how high they go in terms of what the NFL thinks about them, but it's just like the opportunity that they get when you're drafted higher is so much better. And
Right.
like you're tossed to like late round picks, even if you show flashes of talent, like especially if a new coach comes in or something like that, like you'll just be tossed aside. Like we saw with Tajay Spears when the new coach came in, like Vrabel clearly loved him. Like they did everything to get him on the field, and then a new coach comes in, and there's this like third round running back, like whatever. Let's bring in our big free agent and Tony Pollard.
That's true. And it's weird because both of them are very similar.
Right.
Not like exactly the same, but those two are close in the way they play. I was very confused by that whole entire move because
Yeah.
I thought they would, bring in like a bruising back or short yardage back like they had with Derrick Henry. But again, it's like you mentioned, it's a new coaching staff. Very interested to see what that team looks like this year in Tennessee.
Yeah. I like the moves they made other than that one. The route Ridley, I'm not like the biggest fan of Ridley, and it was a lot of money. But I think he's a great fit, and I like what they're doing.
I like Will Levis too. I think you and I have talked about this. I preferred Will Levis. Again, I had Bryce ranked higher because I knew the draft capital was going to be there. But I preferred Will Levis over Bryce Young just because of the prototypical NFL size. I think Will Levis had a liver arm than Bryce. I think Bryce can make all the easy throws and some of the off-schedule stuff, but I think Levis is more of the gunslinger mentality, and sometimes I fall for that, and it sucks. But I was really high on Levis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's things to like about him for sure. Here we got, so Penix goes at the 202. That's, if this were 12 team, I mean, that would be the first round.
Yeah, it would, right? Yeah.
We definitely haven't seen him go in the first round of any of the 12 teamers we've done.
He's picked up some major steam after his pro day, and he kind of showed out some of that athleticism that we weren't 100% sure. Like we thought he had some, but it wasn't really like on display. And I think you saw I got into a little bit of an argument with a guy when it came to Penix and JJ on Twitter.
Yeah, I chimed in.
Yeah, I saw, and I was like, I'm not even going to continue. Because what did you say exactly? Again,
well, the other person said that said something along the lines of Penix sucked for 4 years at Indiana, and I was like, I think you gotta go put on some Penix Indiana tape if that's what you think.
And the crazy thing is, you're basing that. You're probably what you're doing in that case is you're looking at the stats because he had none because he played like 4 games. Right. You know what I mean? So you can't say he sucks when he's hurt. It just, you know what I mean? Shit happens. I don't know if I can curse, but I got a little fired up there. Basically, the tweet stemmed off of what throws can.
Real quick, I'm on the clock. We're back to back here, so let's.
Let's do that first. Let's do what we came here to do first.
Yeah. I'm first of all, I mean, two of my favorite receivers, Pearsall and Mitchell, go right in front of me. And Mitchell and Coleman, especially Mitchell at the 2.8 is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Coleman at the 2.09 is pretty late. I think there's only one option here for me, and that is Bo Nix.
Okay.
If I ever get to the third round of a rookie draft where I have like a legitimate number of picks in it, and I don't have a receiver yet, I'm going to be pretty sad. but
yeah, true. Yeah, especially with this class.
Yeah.
So I'm in a little bit of a spot here. There's 2 running backs that I'm very high on, 2 wide receivers I'm very high on. Do I want to stick to my guns here? You know what? Screw it. I'm going to go with the upside pick. Where's he at?
Got to scroll all the way down.
Yeah, because I know he's not going to more than likely make it back.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because I think his steam is picked up.
Yeah, he definitely has truthers out there. Jerry in the chat says, talking about Penix, he had some good games in Indiana versus good competition, didn't have a good O-line or good receivers. Yeah, I mean, his situation was – I don't think I've ever seen a worse offensive line than what he was – I mean, and that's where it's so funny because he was such the opposite player there. He was running around for his life all the time, like being like that out-of-the-pocket gunslinger type, and now he's so different.
And he's just picking people apart. That's the thing. I really liked Michael Penix when I watched his 2023 tape. Just the ball placement he brings to every single part of the field is just immaculate almost.
Yeah, great ball placement. Really good to the sidelines in particular.
Which is something like kind of where I was going with the whole JJ debate. Yeah. It's like JJ can't. Well, it's not that he can't. I don't want to say that because he's still extremely young, and he's a part of this. Yeah, and he wasn't really asked to do it too much. So how much are you actually working on it? You know, right. I don't know. There's a lot that I need to see from JJ first before I could start putting into first round draft capital in the NFL draft or the Dynasty rookie picks.
Yeah, I do have him in my first round.
He's going to more than likely get it.
Yeah, I'm with these rankings that I made. I'm just kind of assuming like draft capital based on what we're hearing, and I have him as being like a top 15 pick.
Yeah, probably. I mean, in the NFL, I probably wouldn't take him there.
Yeah,
but I could see it happening because there's so many QB hungry teams, and I'm sure he's got some tools that you can absolutely work with. Like he's got a really good arm in the middle of the field. He's got a strong arm. I wouldn't say it's like a deep arm strength. It's more of like a fastball kind of on certain routes. But there's definitely things you can work with. And maybe if he goes to the right situation, maybe I'm just, completely wrong. But I just couldn't do it.
Yeah. I think if he sits, he'll be a good investment just because teams seem to be so in love with like his work ethic and the interviews and stuff. So like, if you're going to take a type of guy like that and have him sit, like I get it.
Is that your kind of opinion on Drake May too? If I'm not mistaken, your article just came out this week.
Yes, it did. Everybody should go check that out at Toilets to Titles. Yeah, basically just laid out some of the issues I have with May's game. He's got loads of potential, but I would like to see him sit. Yeah, he's very raw with a lot of his technique and his footwork and all that. Dang, Jalen Wright goes right before me. I was going to take him.
See, I'll wait till you're done picking, but maybe I'll just talk out loud. I'm looking I know Javon Baker at the 3-1 in a 10-team league might seem a little high, but he's the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12th wide receiver off the board.
Yeah.
I'm very comfortable doing that.
For sure. Yeah.
I could. Good.
Among that, there's just that giant tier of receivers in the middle. And just whatever your flavor is, I think that's a good place to take him.
Mm-hmm. I could see him sneaking into the back end of the second round in the NFL draft.
Yeah, definitely. I think he probably goes in rounds 2 through 4.
I have 2 through 3 right now. Jermaine Burton, that's a good pick. That's somebody I've been watching a little bit more lately, and I was more impressed than what I thought I was going to be.
Yeah, he's a good player. His usage was just really weird at Alabama.
Is it weird that the Alabama pipeline of wide receivers has kind of died?
Yeah, their recruiting has been a little bit down in that department. They do Isaiah Bond is a guy they have now who I think
Who a lot
is,
of people are hyping up. I've seen recently.
yeah. So maybe they can get back to, and if Burton can, I think Burton will have a better NFL career than he did a college career. I have heard though that there are a few teams that took him off their draft board because he's a freaking psychopath.
I've heard that too.
But
I've saw like a couple times in his tape where he gets a little like what's the word? Mouthy, which I don't mind. I love that. I love my wide receivers are just talking trash the whole time. Like I don't mind that, but I know, NFL teams are not going to love that because their penalties come, stuff like that. So
you go Bucky at the 401 and
yeah.
Braylon goes at the 402. I think you're not going to be happy to hear this, but I moved Bucky down quite a bit in my rankings after I dug into some running back film, like maybe like a week ago, like a lot more for a lot of these guys, and I don't know. He's got the like movement ability, and he's really shifty, and he's a fun player, but I don't know if I see the fantasy ceiling for him right now. But
he's going to be he's my running back one, and it's tough to put him there because it's tough because of the size and what could he be at the NFL level. If he's a receiving back, like I think he's probably the best or maybe top 2 receiving back in this class. Because I think his hands are just extremely good. His elusiveness in the open field. It's going to come down to, is that contact balance going to be as good as it was in the Pac-12 now in the NFL?
Yeah.
That's what it's going to come down to. And I don't know.
Yeah,
I just really liked his film, to be honest. And if you go look at PFF's like top 10 in certain metrics, he's at the top of the list in every, or at least in the top 10 in every single one, or 7 out of 8 of them that they posted.
Yeah, he definitely pops with a lot of metrics like that, and some of his tape definitely pops. My thing with him is I just see him as more of an in-space back, and I think Oregon did a really good job of getting him in space, which aided some of those like broken tackle metrics and all that. But I don't know if I see him as a between the tackles runner. And as a space back, like you got to be a good receiver, which you said he's got good hands, but I don't really think he's like a route runner.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't see him as a guy that you're going to like an Austin Eckler who plays like in the slot on like 15% of snaps or whatever. I don't really see that.
I think he's very good at coming out of the backfield routes, like angle routes, stuff like that. I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of him lined out in the slot like you're mentioning.
Yeah.
I do think the size has to play a part in that too.
Sure. All right, last pick here.
Let's make it count.
Let's just go to my rankings and see what they say to do. So we've got Audric Eston is still there. I moved him down a little bit as well.
Really?
Yeah. I like him as like an NFL draft. I would like if my team drafted him. I just with the lack of receiving that he's probably going to get, and he might be that just between the tackles bruiser that doesn't have the highest fantasy upside,
like a Gus Edwards-esque
person.
Like if somebody gets hurt, he could step in. Like if J.K. Dobbins gets hurt, he could step right in and get you the short yardage touchdowns.
Yeah, and like if he's in the right situation, he can put up great numbers like Edwards did this year.
I like the Washington pick you just took there.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
Yeah, there's 2 Washingtons in this class. I don't even know if they added him yet, actually.
Who's
Taj Washington?
Oh, yeah, the USC guy.
Yeah, I don't think they added him yet. I can't look at it now because it's gone, like the players. But I don't think he's been added yet, which is surprising. Like there's still a few players that haven't been added, and so Bryson Nesbitt, the tight end from North Carolina, is still on there, and he's not in the draft.
Yeah.
So Sleeper needs to fix that soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like Taj Washington too. I like both Washingtons. I haven't really dug into Malik Washington, right, from Virginia.
Yep.
I haven't dug into him too much, but Taj Washington's super interesting. I feel like he's very, very, just in the small films that I've watched, very QB friendly, if that makes sense. Like every time there was a scramble drill with Caleb Williams, he readily made himself available.
Yep.
Which is good. Teams are going to love that.
Sure. Yeah. I honestly, I haven't, like, I've watched most USC games just because of Caleb, but I haven't really paid much attention to him. He wasn't really someone that's on my radar, but I mean, at some point, once I'm a little less burnt out, I might dig into some film of his.
Yeah, we should mention that we are getting to the point where the draft just needs to happen. Because
just no new
pumping out so much. Yeah. We just need to know we need to either be proven right or proven wrong at this point. Like I'm just so tired of, arguing until I'm blue in the face about these players.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the draft a little bit. Whose team stands out to you?
Yeah. Let's see. I love what the 107 and 108, both of those did. I'll start with the 108. Getting Bowers at the 108, I mean, is great. Obviously, anything out of the top 7 for him is good. Mitchell at the 208.
Steal, yeah.
That's I think the lowest I've ever seen him go, honestly. Polk at the 308 is, I think, good value. I feel like he got a bunch of guys like at the end of a tier, kind of. So like the maybe 6 to 8 picks before him, like were all players of similar value, and he got like the last one available before a teardrop in a couple different spots. Tez Walker at the 408, not a player I like, but I mean he'll probably, the draft capital he'll get, I think that should be a good value pick.
I think the NFL is going to like him more than what we think because, I mean, Christian Watson got 2nd round draft capital, and like they're essentially the same player. You know what I mean? It's like that GIF where it's like those are the same picture. You know, the team I'm looking at is pick 4, Doc Holliday, Roman Dunze at the 1-4. Like I know we talked about, was that a little bit of a surprise? Yes, but he's my wide receiver too, so I can't be mad at it. Then Worthy and Leggett at the 2-4 and 3-4. I went back and watched Leggett, and I moved him from I think it was wide receiver 16 or 17, I forget exactly, to wide receiver 12 because I just watched him through a different lens than what I did before. Wide 5th-year breakout, not great, but I almost want to put him around the same area as Keon Coleman because they're kind of similar, but I feel like I prefer Leggett at this point than Coleman.
Okay. Even with like the big age difference?
Yeah, because I think the NFL doesn't really care about that too much anymore.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm more thinking about it from like from a dynasty perspective. When you have, so like, let's see how old is Xavier Leggett actually?
I think he's 24, right?
He's actually still a young 23, so that's not so bad. But Keon Coleman's 20. Like
so that's hard to pass up. I understand that.
And if Keon Coleman like maybe doesn't do much for his first 2 years, like maybe he has like 400 or like, I don't know, 300 yards as a rookie, 600 yards as a second-year player, people are going to look at him like when you just click on him in Sleeper or whatever and see like, oh, he's still 22. Like
True.
That is a player. Whereas if the same thing
will be 24 or 26.
Yeah, he'll be like 25, 26, and people are like, he's already, getting toward like close to his prime.
That's true. I never thought of it that way, to be honest with you. But when I just watch both of them on film, I'm starting to get, because I feel like, and I think the RAS score says it. I would have to go look. I haven't looked at either one of their RAS scores. Leggett just seems a lot quicker. Okay. I don't know if that you see that or. I would say Coleman's probably a better jump ball receiver at this point.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'd say Leggett is probably a better accelerator and definitely has better top speed. But I think Coleman is quicker in tight areas, like has quicker feet, has more fluid hips, like he can turn his hips and flip the field. I mean, he returns punts.
Yeah, that's interesting too, especially now with if he does do kickoffs with the kickoff changes.
Oh yeah. But I mean, hey, N'Keal Perry also returned punts, so
That's true.
I don't know what that really says.
True. I also think Leggett might be a better route runner at this point because we talked about it. I think last week, Keon Coleman's reception perception was not overly flattering.
It was not.
So I don't have it in front of me, but I know there was a lot of red arrows on that.
It was pretty much all red arrows. I'm looking at it now. All red arrows except for yellow on the curl and the dig, and then green on flat. But
which is odd. Why? That's very odd that flats are his only green arrow.
Yeah, I think that's probably just a really low. I mean, it's at 100%, so I assume it's just a low. Like it was only a few routes.
True. I didn't. Yeah, that's true. I haven't looked at it, but I've heard people say that his Michigan State film is a lot better than his Florida State University film.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of it like early on in December. And he had game. It was honestly, I thought it was fairly similar to his FSU tape where he has games where he just looks like Superman.
Yeah.
And then he has other games where you're like, is he even playing? Like, but yeah, I was hoping for more of a jump definitely at FSU that we didn't see.
Right. All right. Anybody else that stands out to you in this draft? I actually like Superchargers too, the pick 5. I know you're not the biggest May fan, but getting a QB and a super flex in with the 5th pick and then Ladd and Corley and McMillan, I think that's a pretty decent grouping there.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm very high on Corley. I've started to let's be honest, every single time Ladd McConkey has had to step up, the Senior Bowl, the Combine, his pro day, everything is telling us this dude is good. And I've been ignoring it. And I don't know if I can ignore it anymore. You know what I mean? If you were just to look at Ladd McConkey at his stats, you would be like, okay, well, why the hell is this dude getting any type of buzz? Why is he getting, early second round, maybe even late first round grades? The dude can ball, and he's just showing it at every turn, which is he might have one of the safer ceilings in this draft, or safer floors in this draft.
Yeah, I agree. His reception perception was interesting too. It looked.
I actually
really
didn't
good.
see that. Did that come out?
It did.
Oh wow.
I'll pull it up and.
I'm actually pulling it up now as well. I didn't see that one come out.
It was really good, except against he's just terrible against press.
Yeah, that was actually because I'm going to be talking about him tonight on the Dynasty Dogs podcast. He's one of the 3 wide receivers I'm going to go over, and that kind of reared its ugly head at the Senior Bowl, especially because when down in the red zone, when things got a little clamped, things got a little tougher, yards got a little shorter, he struggled getting by the corners in the red zone because that's when everybody started to put the clamps on him a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, I think he doesn't handle physicality very well at this point.
He's also a smaller wide receiver, so that not small, but he doesn't look like a 6-foot wide receiver.
No, he's fairly slight, I think. If I remember correctly, I think he has short arms, which plays against you being like an outside press beater.
I'll tell you what, though, the success by route is extremely impressive.
Yeah, and his success rate against man and zone are both great. It's pretty much echoes what I saw in film. I think people have I saw some stuff earlier in the cycle about people saying Ladd could be like an outside receiver and he's not just a slot guy. I don't see that at all.
Yeah,
I think he's definitely a slot guy, but I don't think that's a bad thing.
I also don't think it's he's going to be one of those wide receivers you need to keep out of the outside. I think he can play the outside, but I do think I agree. He's probably more primed to be like a St. Brown or those guys that play in the slot. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, he can play outside like off the line of scrimmage, but you just can't have him like facing press and expect him to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, shout out to Reception Perception, by the way. I listen to a lot of their stuff. I follow a lot of their stuff. Their subscription is completely, what's the word, warranted. They put a lot of hard work into this, so I love reading this stuff. I'm glad you mentioned Lad being on here. I didn't see it.
Yeah, if you look in their player profiles haven't been posted yet, but if you go on to the 2024 college sortable data, Pearsall and AD Mitchell are on there.
And I'm imagining you're telling me that because both of those guys that you're high on are probably have some good data.
Yep, Pearsall in particular is. Whew.
Yeah, that doesn't really surprise me, to be honest.
Pearsall's got the second highest rate or success rate against man of anybody in the class, behind only Rome.
I was gonna say, I bet you Rome is the one, and now I'm looking at it. Yeah, Rome has the.
Oh, Roman Wilson is. I didn't notice Roman Wilson's also on there, and that looks bad.
Yeah, that does not look. I wasn't super impressed. I mean, he had a really good Senior Bowl, but like he didn't really jump out to me too much. Where am I looking at here? Okay,
yeah, I'm definitely a lot lower on him than consensus.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Good.
Do you know? Do you know Matt Waldman?
Yeah,
he's one of my favorite people in the just like NFL space. He's like his like rookie scouting portfolio is like how I started getting into this.
Mm-hmm.
And he said something about Roman Wilson that I never would have thought of, and I don't I never would have thought of on my own. But once he said it, I was like, yes, that's definitely why I'm not as high on him. And it's that he knows how to use, or he knows how to do like all of the techniques that a receiver needs to do, and he has good technique, sound technique, and he's a good athlete, but he doesn't have like the craft of knowing how to apply the techniques and how to actually like use what he has to beat the man in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
Like he'll use certain like break techniques and things like that in just situations where it doesn't really make any sense. And like, it just leads to like, his breaks look sharp and they're good, but like, he's not really getting the separation that you would think he would from like when you see his breaks. And I think that like made sense to me when I read that from him.
Sorry, I'm reading a little bit more of this because now you shouldn't have done this. Like now I'm just like hyper focused on this reception perception stuff we were talking about earlier. Brian Thomas's success rate versus press is high. It's 73.9, but he only faced it 16% of the time.
Yeah.
So that's pretty low.
He does have the third highest sample size,
Mm-hmm.
or no, sample size of routes against press in the class so far.
Yeah, I'm looking at now. I just sorted it. Yeah, you're right. But it also Adonai Mitchell, Pearsall, and Wilson have not been charted yet. It looks like.
Yeah, he doesn't have the percentages in there, but he has the total number of routes.
No, for me. It has an empty space.
Oh, really? And press attempts?
Or no, I see routes.
Okay. There's routes, charted. And then like to the left of success rate versus press, do you see press attempts?
Oh, okay. That's weird. So I wonder.
You could also could you put that on the screen?
Yeah, sorry. I should have just done that, right? Hold on. How do I do this? Present. Okay, I got to stop that one screen. That's why. And there you go. Is it up?
I do not see it.
That's why.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, this is. I haven't looked at this page before, so this is extremely interesting. Roman Wilson did not face a whole lot of man coverage.
He just didn't run very many routes.
True. Yeah, this is extremely interesting, and I know that they're going to be coming out with a lot more profiles as we get closer. Because again, we are 19 days from the draft. Exactly.
So close.
So close yet so far away. But
Yeah,
again, shout out to Reception Perception, by the way.
Yeah, it's nice. I'm in his Discord, and he posts like sneak previews of these before he puts them on the site, and it's good to see them before they come out.
Yeah, get a little jump before everybody else.
Yeah, and then you can you can make an opinion based on that, and then people will think that it was just yours. Just kidding.
So he's got 9 right now. It looks like 9 profiles. Whoa, too many buttons. I'm not very computer savvy, so I'm sorry if I'm just moving things around.
Sorry.
Is there anybody that really jumps out to you on the negative portion before we kind of end this?
On there, I mean, it's got to be Roman Wilson.
Keon Coleman too, though.
I was kind of expecting Keon Coleman, and also Coleman versus zone is good.
It's high. Yeah, I was just looking at that too.
I think that's like 60th percentile or something like that, which is fine. And that's why he talked about him being moved into the slot, maybe as like a big power slot, because you're going to be facing zone coverage a lot more there. But Wilson, I was expecting his to look a little better than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so was I, to be honest with you. Like I said, I wasn't super impressed with him, but I'm surprised it's as low as what it is.
Yeah, me too. Especially the zone. The zone one is bad.
AD Mitchell was kind of surprisingly higher than I imagined too.
I think he's a good route runner. He's just inconsistent.
I think that's probably why I thought he'd be a little lower. Maybe it's just the inconsistencies that annoy me so much that I think it's supposed to be lower.
Yeah, I think something like you could watch him on tape and be like, you'll see a really bad rep and you're like, oh, come on, like, and not just like. But it's at the end of the day, it's still just one play, and then he might have 2 or 3 good plays after that.
Success rate versus double coverage, 28% for Brian Thomas. I mean, again, that's not like super surprising.
It's only 7 attempts.
Yeah, exactly, and it's not super surprising that somebody struggles with double. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless you're freaking Marvin Harrison Jr. and Roman Dunze.
40 routes where he was double teamed is crazy.
Yeah, I still am very surprised you have him as your wide receiver 2 and not 1. Is it just more the explosion for Neighbors that, or the explosiveness?
I don't even like saying that I have him as my wide receiver 2 because I feel like that when people hear that they're like, oh, you're lower on him. Like I'm not. I don't think I really am. I love them all 3 of those top guys.
They're all your favorite children. You have no favorite.
Yeah, exactly. They're all 3 of some of my favorite players I've ever watched, like I've ever scouted. Marvin, my only worry with him is, even though like all of his, the reception perception stuff looks great, obviously, against press, I feel like he does have some issues where that he got away with because of how big and strong he is, and he still will probably get away with it in the NFL against certain guys, but against top corners and big corners, he might not. And I have no doubt that he'll, work that out and improve his game and develop and everything. I just I feel like some people think he's like a top 15 receiver in the NFL right now.
I think for fantasy he could be. Well, Dynasty, I have him in the top 5.
Yeah, Dynasty, but just like as an NFL receiver.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I agree with you.
And that's a little rich for me
right now. Yeah.
And I think Neighbors route running is underrated, honestly. He's it's very like wild and all over the place, and he's just got like limbs flailing, and it looks
he's more explosive.
Yeah, he looks out of control, but he's not. And I just think he's so, the way that he accelerates past people, and I've never seen anything like it.
Are you concerned about the drops? There's not a whole lot, but it seems to kind of pop up every now and again. But Neighbors? Yeah.
Not really. No, I don't think so.
I don't think it's super concerning, but it's like every once in a while there's like a drop that kind of like you should have caught that one, Yeah,
but I think Marv has those too.
Okay, fair enough.
This is another thing I got from Matt Waldman that I never would have noticed. he has a tendency to, on like certain targets, wait on them instead of attacking them, and he catch them with like underhand technique, sort of like this as opposed to this. And there are just a few like 3 or 4 plays throughout the season where he does that and drops the ball because of it, because it allows the defender to like get on his back a little quicker. And like, again, super minor flaw that like
Could be coached up.
Yeah. Well, also funny thing about that is like one of the other players who has succeeded with that same kind of like flaw, if you even want to call it that, is his dad. His dad did that all the time. And I like went back and watched highlights because I heard somebody say that about him. And I went back and watched Marvin Harrison senior highlights, and he does it all the time. So like it makes sense, and he had no problems. But it does lead to some drops occasionally. And Neighbors, I like his hand. I think he has good hands.
Yeah, so do I. I just think like there were some just very like easy drops, you know? Sure. I saw maybe 1 or 2. It wasn't like super alarming, but it was like, okay, what the hell? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And every film I think is going to have that. You know, I love Javon Baker, but Steve Smith said it best. He said he does the hard things easy and the easy things hard.
Yeah, that was a good way to I like that. Yeah, and just for context on the drops, Marvin Harrison this year, this is just PFF, and you know, drops can be subjective, but Harrison with an 8.2% drop rate, Neighbors only 5.3.
Okay. Yeah. Still, that's kind of feels like that's kind of high for both of them, isn't it? Well, just when you watch the film, it seems higher than I would have thought.
Yeah, I think 5.3 is pretty low.
No, it's pretty low, but like I mentioned, it was 1 or 2 that I saw that were just kind of annoying. Like I didn't think 5% was going to be, and I didn't think 8% for Harrison was going to be that high. Like if you were to just watch the film and not look at that, would you have seen either one of those being around there?
Probably not.
Yeah, that's what I meant, more or less.
Drops, again, they're also just a little bit subjective, so you're always going to...
Puka Nacua led the NFL in drops this year.
Oh, yeah. The league leaders in drops are like always the best receivers in the NFL.
Yeah, because they get targeted so heavily.
Like Justin Jefferson always has a lot of drops. Tyreek Hill has a ton of drops. I think last year Deebo Samuel led the league in drops. Like, just when you like, everybody's going to have like concentration drops.
I thought Puka led the league in drops. Am I wrong with that?
Oh, sorry, I meant last year as in
2 years ago. Yeah, I was going to say, wait a minute.
Puka did. Puka had he had a lot of drops actually.
Yeah,
like 13 or something like that.
That is actually a lot. I didn't even think it was that many, but it's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of his flaws as a prospect.
College receiver too. Yeah.
But that's why drops matter, but not that much.
Right. It matters like when you do it. You know, like Quez Watkins dropping touchdowns as an Eagles fan was absolute. I couldn't do it anymore. Like simple drops are like, okay, whatever. Slant route drops, whatever. Touchdown drops, I'm ready to run through a wall.
Yeah. Yep. It can be very frustrating. And that does the same thing to coaches, which is why I think they do matter, because they'll, especially if you're like a player with low draft capital, like a couple of bad drops is a good way to ruin your chances with the coach.
Agreed. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Thank you, Duarte. Says good job, guys, in chat.
Yeah, I got to get used to reading these comments. I just like at first, before you even mentioned it earlier, I forgot to put the comment thing up. So I'm like, where's Jerry commenting this? And then I was like, oh, right. It's on the thing.
Yeah.
But you're used to doing this before, right? You said you do live streaming stuff, or you've done that previously. So you're used to this.
Yeah. Back in like high school and like early college, I used to stream on Twitch. All right. I should probably get out of here. We've been here for quite some time.
Yeah, we have. Again, we do this thing where we end up chatting about things that we don't plan on doing. So
always just love talking ball.
Yeah, that's all that matters.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. Thanks to everyone who joined the draft with us. It was good to managed to get 10 people on a Saturday afternoon.
Called it close there.
Yeah, a little bit of a delay, but we got there. But yeah, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week, hopefully on Wednesday.
Yeah, should be Wednesday this week.
Yeah, cool.
All right. Have a good one.